Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joesph Malone, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Living, loving, making progress.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
So, first off, what do you do for a living, man? I know that you have multiple things going on. I know you have the home security avenue, and we also have staying vigilant and being able to protect yourself at all times. You have like a little group that you have, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
Talk.
the lethality university, lethal you. Just trying to when I was getting out, we talked about this a little bit last time, how it was just I got kicked out of the military after 13 years and I was gonna get out anyways, but on better terms than what I did. And I I was just gonna kill myself because I had no purpose, and when we have no purpose, it just drives you down this crazy spiral and you start feeling
Fill it
sorry
with
for
all
yourself.
the other bad things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it really catches up too. People talk about this where when you're living that life of such like a high pace operational tempo that you don't really have time to allow those emotions to settle in, those thoughts and those experiences. And quite honestly, sometimes I still get caught with these moments where it was like, did that even really happen?
Yeah, I know, right? So true.
So in trying to find an outlet for the skills that I've learned and developed in my life, helping people be safe against violence, because dude, I hate douchebag violent criminals. Life is already so hard as it is. My wife's cousin was murdered and he was missing for 8 years. They found him buried in the basement of a Chicago
Wow.
gangbanger.
Oh my
Yeah, like
God.
under concrete.
Holy
And
shit.
the pain like that just causes a family is just so, and for what, right? It's like, so you could, because you want to be fucking hard, because you want to be a part of your little gang. So I really just want to be able to teach people how to provide for themselves and their family. And the most basic necessity in life is security. And so by teaching people how to be lethal, and lethality isn't just the ability to kill, it's having a good positive mindset, beautifying all things in life. I really like Bushido, the Japanese way of the
Yep.
warrior.
Yep.
That really resonates a lot with me. I learned a lot about that when I lived in Japan for a little while. So that's what I do. I try to prevent violence by teaching people how to be violent in a justified way.
It's not talked about enough, I think, because people get caught up in their like 9 to 5 lives and they don't realize that there are real threats. There are real threats out there that, maybe aren't doing that well and are willing to go that distance to take what you have. And you're right. I mean, I think mostly America is desensitized and they don't see a lot of things. That's one thing about living here is it's kept out of view. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, absolutely. It's a byproduct of living within the greatest emergency response system that's ever been created in the history
Yep.
of humanity. You could literally blow somebody's fucking brains out on a sidewalk, and pending the investigation, an hour later, it's all cleaned up and gone like it never even happened. And one of the big things I tell people in my concealed carry classes, I do a concealed carry class every month out here in Illinois, and I tell them, talk to a 911 operator. 911 operators know what's up because they're the ones getting the phone call. They are the first person that receives the call for help. And they will tell you how much they get those calls, how prevalent it is within this society. But because we've constructed it so amazingly, it's
It's
like
true.
the evil with the good, right? It's such a good thing that it also provides so much ignorance. And
It's
that's why
true.
you have, dumb fucks wanting to mutilate their genitals and protest pro Hamas shit on campuses. Like that's like
Let's
it's
un
just,
let's unpack that real quick. What would make you like even do that to go pro Hamas? What is the thinking behind that? Is you know what I mean? Like, do they realize that they could not even go there? and do that? You know what I'm saying? Like the people that they're protecting would kill them.
Dude, they wouldn't even just be killed. They would be tortured and
Yeah,
raped and skinned alive and burned. Just look at what ISIS did
that's what I
to
mean.
so many of those people. Yeah, I have so my theories on a lot of what we're seeing with the deconstruction of like the nuclear family in America and masculinity and this type of stupid nonsensical bullshit. I think it's largely Chinese influenced. I think it's a massive Chinese psyop. I think a lot of our government officials, especially when you look at the relationship Jinping has had out in California, dating all the way back to the 70s with like the Pelosi's
Yeah.
specific. I mean,
I
how did
love
the
how people are so quick to call that exactly a conspiracy theory. You know, it's so quickly to point at that like, oh, no way. There's no way that could happen.
yeah, and that's again, like the byproduct of living within the safest nation that's ever existed. People don't understand. They talk about the Roman Empire because it lasted so long. Yeah, sure, cool. You still died when you got the flu. Like, it was great for its time, but when you actually compare apples to apples, America is by far the single greatest nation
Absolutely.
ever
Absolutely.
created in terms of
Absolutely.
opportunity and resources. And so,
Do you think we're seeing that though, because America inadvertently is the safest place, in the world, that it does create a bit of ignorance within its core because people never see the ugly. It's hidden. It's as you just said, it's cleaned up in an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like it's never shown. So you don't think about it. It doesn't come to mind that's real. People don't even think about death until all of a sudden they get sick and they realize, oh shit, I can die.
yeah,
And then they start freaking out. So I mean, it is a real thing.
I think I think it lays the ground for that because when you look at the evolution of America, especially since World War II, that's really when I think modern America came into effect. Truman is probably one of my least favorite presidents because he instituted this whole world policing policy. And
Mhm.
actually, I don't know if you saw Mitt Romney talking about this a couple of days ago. He said that the phrase America first, like put America first, is laughable because we must be proactive in meddling in other people's affairs across the world in order to put America's interests first. Now, obviously, I understand strategic effects. You
Of
need to
course,
have at least a finger on the pulse of what's
of
taking
course.
place. But when you sign 100, $200 billion of foreign aid packages, one, all that money is going where? Military industrial complex and the politicians' fucking pockets, both Republican and Democrat. How do these politicians ever have a net value, like a net worth? Like Alvin Bragg, the New York DA. I don't know how true this is, but I wouldn't doubt it at all. The guy's got like a net value of like $80 million or something like that. I mean, the dude's like worth like so much money, and that's just what they're reporting. AOC, this dumb bitch,
Yeah, exactly.
she's
Exactly.
got a net worth of
Oh
$4 million.
my God.
So if you did the math and you took their salaries, they would be like amongst the great, they would be like Warren Buffett level of trading.
The math isn't mathing. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
add up, dude. Like it's crazy to me how just out in the open it is. And unfortunately, I don't think the common person really understands exactly what the military industrial complex is. Like I'll say it on a podcast and we'll talk about it because we understand it. But the common person will just hear it and be like, yeah, so that's the military, right? That's just the military. And they don't understand the gravity of what's really happening. They're privatizing war. And
Right.
when you really think of that, capitalism has made its way into the art of war, and that is scary because once people see the money that it can make, they
Yeah.
don't want it to stop. And as you see, look at all the engagements that are just popping off, and just even look at the whole when you really look at the whole. I just did like a deep dive on the whole like Israel Palestine thing, and when I realized it was the exact same blueprint of 9/11, like how could how could Israel with their Iron Dome, not see fucking hang gliders flying into, their AO. You know what I'm saying? Like it just it was too art it was too perfect for it not to, you know what I'm saying? Like it was event staged so they could start what they're doing right now. And I don't know, man. It's
Yeah,
scary.
so so just to kind of to recap, because I have a lot to say about that whole thing as well, where I think it's even more egregious than 9/11 because Israel has the greatest, and I used to do contracting for an intel company out of Israel, and I was going as soon like when I first got out of the military, I was setting up these programs overseas, ended up getting out of it in 2000, and I think I was 21 now.
It's crazy.
Because I got set up in this African thing and it was just fucked up. And
Damn.
I almost ended up burning down this hotel, almost got, you know,
That's
pursued.
scary.
Dude, yeah, Nigerian ass motherfucking hatch
Damn.
drug dealers and shit. It was a wild
Different
story.
different rules over there, bro.
Yeah, there was none. I was literally gonna I had fucking furniture soaked in hand sanitizer, a big ass can of bug spray, a lighter, and I was ready to light that
Oh,
motherfucker up.
they were coming for you.
Possibly.
Damn.
Fortunately, I ended up working with a really honest couple of people, and they weren't corrupt. We
Which is
uncovered,
rare.
we uncovered the largest political corruption scandal in the nation's history. And it was so high up that the attorney general of the country closed the door and he
Oh my
said, all of your
God.
lives are in danger right now because he didn't even know how high
Wow.
that had gone. But that's a story for another time. Israel has the greatest intel agency in the world.
Yep. Yep.
They have to, otherwise they die.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you ever heard of the Ben Gurion Canal.
I have not.
Oh man. So the Suez Canal, major shipping route,
Yep.
it only goes one direction throughout certain times of the day. You can't have both directions of traffic for maritime traffic. It's
Okay.
only this time from like 9 to 5, this time from like 5 to 9, and so forth. On top of that, you have to pay Egypt a lot of money every time that you pass through there. The Ben Gurion Canal, the original prime minister of Israel post World War II, Ben Gurion, I think that's how you pronounce his name, came up with this idea of, hey, there's a possibility where we can make a different canal and you could do twice as much traffic because you could do it all day long in both directions and you won't have to pay Egypt, which would
Huh.
be a big fuck you to Egypt because they don't like them. And the only problem, though, is that there's this fucking little group of people right in the way.
I
Gaza.
saw it. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Palestine.
Yeah, no, Gaza. Yeah, literally right where the canal is supposed to be passing into back into the sea.
Oh, so you're saying that connects to, oh,
Yeah, so
damn.
if you look up the schematic of where the Ben Gurion Canal is supposed to travel through, it travels right through the Gaza Strip.
Oh
Right,
boy.
right. And so they've been trying to build this thing for years and they just can't because they can't get away with the genocide. And
Of
so I
course.
like there's a lot of stuff going on right now that points to it. But with in regard to Americans, man, it's so much of the Chinese influence. If you ever read the 100-Year Plan, it's about China and their plan. People forget that they've been around since the beginning of time, and they're just slowly withering away at the fabric of American society. And because we've provided such an amazing, safe, and secure environment, it has allowed for the psyop, the information ops, the manipulation of the American mind, especially with social media. And I don't think any of this is specifically ever really like planned years and years out in advance. But I think what happens is as technology evolves and as they continue to increase their grasp and hold, out of the 600,000 foreign exchange students in America, like 400,000 of them are Chinese. You
Wow.
think that's because the communist government of China wants their people to learn about capitalism? No, it's so that they can learn American law, chemical engineering, so that they literally use our own laws against us, which is why China is one of the largest owners of farmland in the United
I
States.
saw that.
Largest owners of farmland, they pump it with all these chemicals and bullshit. They start talking about all this vegan fake meat stuff. That has like, of course, detrimental effects on the body. We have like super high cancer rates. Like 60% of Americans got fucking diabetes, bro. How is that even possible? like I've been paying so much attention to like physical health lately, just looking at everybody walking around, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like you have diabetes and you're 37, taking shots of Ozempic, which is known to,
That's taken over, dude. Ozempic, I've been noticing that everyone's on that.
and it's killing,
What even is Ozempic?
dude. It's supposed to be a diabetic drug that reduces cravings. Dude, this is what's fucking nuts. So I just got a guy who came on my program and he wanted to do the nutrition and the physical fitness piece. And it's simple: macros, and you work out. Know your fats, your proteins, and your carbs. And you'll see the American diet, because I was mind blown by this. I thought I had a high protein diet, low fat diet. When I actually started keeping track of like my macros, like legit keeping track of it, dude, my fats were like 6 times higher than they should have been. My carbs were 3 times higher than they should have been. And my protein was 1/3 of what it should have been, my intakes. So that was crazy. And I thought I was in a pretty decent shape, right? So I start keeping track of that. Bro, life changed. I'm like 195 pounds right now.
How
And
many meals you eat in a day?
I eat pretty continuously, like throughout the day. I try to eat at least five, big and then small, big, small, and then like a big, and then like sometimes like a shake or something for dinner
Okay.
or post dinner snack. But I'm sitting really, and I still do eat a lot of junk food because I got like a fucking sweet tooth, and
Yeah.
that's part of like my lack of discipline right now. I'm beating myself up about it, but don't get me wrong, it's like it's really not that bad when you look at like,
No, I hear you. I hear you.
but I just never compare myself to other people. But I'm sitting at like 12% body fat, anywhere between 12 and 15 minimum year round, or maximum year round. And it's all just by actually monitoring the intake. And I don't even need to be
Huh.
like easy about it anymore, because I understand like what, grams of, 6 grams of, ounces of chicken has in terms of protein. But a guy came on, he's like 40 years old. He's got diabetes. And I told him, I was like, dude, monitor your shit and let's see where it's at. And he's coming in at like 16 times more than he should be eating carbs and fats. Carbs and fats are what turn over into glucose and spike your blood sugar. I wore a blood glucose monitor for like 6 months, the last like 6 months. And it was so interesting to see how like Panera Bread, for example, I had a sandwich from Panera Bread, shot my blood glucose up higher than anything else because of the carbs, the materials in the bread. And so just by monitoring your fucking meals, you'd be able to not have diabetes. But instead, people are giving themselves shots of Ozempic, which actually kills your gut bacteria and it kills the desire. It shuts down the ghrelin production and the receptors in your brain to, or in your stomach, because
Oh, the cravings.
you have
Gotcha.
neurons in your stomach. Yeah, you have brain cells in your stomach because there's a straight mind gut connection.
Huh.
And they're killing it all for the sake of like losing some weight,
Oh,
because they're
God.
too fucking lazy and undisciplined to actually just watch what they eat. And it's killing people's like, it's got all sorts of nasty side effects. It's
Oh,
causing all sorts of cancers. And so it's actually outlawed in like a lot of European countries. I think in just about every European country or something like that.
of course
Don't
it is.
that one, but it's outlawed in a lot of places. So you've got like that, for example. The Chinese are influencing that. The Chinese are planting all sorts of weeds that are killing crops all over the place. You have, I don't know what the deal is with all these food processing plants burning down these
I
cattle.
know. What the fuck?
And of course, the epidemic of opioids coming in through the southern border. Which, when you look at the Dutch, the opium wars with the Dutch and Chinese back in the 1400s, the Chinese emperor, people think opium came from China. It's not true. China was force fed opium by the Dutch back in the 1400s, and the emperor actually outlawed and banned opium. But because the Dutch were already making so much money off of it, they went to war with the Chinese, won, and then force fed fucking opium back down their throats, and it eroded
Wow.
their society for like centuries.
Wow.
And so that, plus they're like the largest donors of all sports teams. They own all the sports teams, they own all of the universities, all these mysterious donors. You see it with these Harvard chemical engineer professors being arrested for like treason and espionage. You see it with the politician's secretary that he was dating is, like a
Yeah.
Chinese spy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they've infiltrated, in my opinion, the vast majority of our political parties, and they're slowly poisoning, killing, and now they're pushing this propaganda bullshit within these universities through social media, TikTok especially, because you could easily program somebody's mind. I think it was Yale or Harvard did a study years ago where they would stop people randomly in a mall, give them, say, hey, can you hold my cup of coffee for a second while I tie my shoe? I would tie my shoe, you'd hold my coffee, and it was like a warm coffee, and I'd walk away. A few minutes later, they're like following them around the mall. They come up and they're like, hey, would you take a survey, sir, please, for 20 bucks for 5 minutes of your time? Yeah, sure. They'd read them a story and they'd say, do you think the protagonist is, or how would you describe the protagonist in this story? Same exact script every single time. Hey, would you hold my coffee? Tie a shoe. Somebody else comes up. Would you take a survey for 20 bucks? Same exact story. 86% of the people who held the warm coffee for that person for just a couple of moments described the protagonist as warm-hearted and caring. They ran the exact same study. The only variable was that the coffee now was cold. And 86%, it was like the same amount, plus or minus 2% for margin of error, said that the protagonist was cold hearted and shallow. And they did this as a study to examine the ability to condition the human mind and how much your environment affects you within
Oh
your
man.
processes and routines. And if we are that malleable in terms of influence, external influence, if we're so, and this is a big thing about the lethal lifestyle, right? Mental and emotional resiliency. Does one cultivate mental and emotional resiliency so that they don't become manipulated by these psyops? I got the guerrilla warfare book right here.
Love it.
This is what they teach you in the special operations community. And it's all irregular warfare. Regular warfare, for everybody who doesn't know, is guerrilla warfare.
Yep.
And I actually did a piece on this pretty recently where I talked about psyops. And when you actually like read the definition of like what a psyop is, it's it's just so fucking obvious, bro. And this is why it's important to be educated about this type of stuff, is because once you're actually educated about the things that are being used on you and
You
against
can
you.
identify it and then you can put a defense up. Exactly.
Exactly, which also bleeds over into things like personal safety, self-defense, and situational awareness, teaching people how to keep themselves safe against violence. It's like once you identify that most people are good people and you're not afraid and don't have anxiety to just look at people in the fucking face and eyes as you pass them by, then the criminal stands out to you really obviously. And just to for everyone to know, like again, this is first of all, this is unclassified, so there's nothing about this that's secret. But psychological operations, psyops, is literally defined in military doctrine as when properly employed, coordinated, and integrated, they can significantly enhance the combat power of resistance forces or just forces. We're talking about guerrilla warfare, the
Yep.
resistance in this
Yep.
case, but it goes both ways. PSYOP in contemporary and future unconventional warfare become more critical as ideological and resistance struggles increase. A temporary tactical advantage may create long-term psychological disadvantage. All actions must be reviewed based upon their local, regional, or even international impact, second, third order effects, operational strategic impact. Target audiences include the population, which is the center of gravity, the linchpin, the critical point. Enemy forces, enemy sympathizers, the uncommitted, and resistance sympathizers. So when you look at what takes place within TikTok or Facebook or search algorithms or all these companies that are heavily funded and influenced by the Chinese government, because so many of these corporations do business in China because of the low cost of production and the value of the marketplace there, they have to abide by certain Chinese demands. Otherwise,
Of
they get
course.
shut down.
Yep.
And I feel really bad for the generation that came up. I grew up, you knew where your buddies were based off the stack of bicycles in the front of their yard.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk
And
about it.
as awesome as the internet and social media are and all that stuff, what it's done is it has planted the opportunity. It's laid the groundwork for an entire generation of people to be manipulated, be purposeless. That's why we see so many active shooters. That's why we see kids mutilating their genitals and wanting to fuck
So to
cats.
characterize this, then you're saying things like TikTok, Instagram, internet in general are forms of maybe a Trojan horse to get into our society, implement chaos in the form of exactly what you just said. I mean, how what can we even do at this point? It's already dug in, bro. I keep saying that only guys like us are identifying this and can see that this is actually a problem. What can be done? I stress out about that, dude. I think about it. I actually think about that a lot. I All I can do is just identify these problems. I see them all the time, and they make me uneasy. Honestly, the I'm just recently the phone thing is really bothering me. I'm seeing people actually change, and I come from an addictive family, a lifestyle, and I know addicts. Bro, this is a drug. People
Yeah.
are this is dug in. People are they they're strung out on this, bro. You can't even drive without having this right here, dude.
Everybody
It's
stop at a stoplight.
it's
Like, carjacking is so easy. You're fucking on your
yeah,
phone.
it's scary,
You're
man.
100% right, man. And so I talk about this a lot when it comes to the whole personal safety aspect of things. Where have you seen The Social Dilemma, the documentary?
I have not.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've got to see it. Everybody has to
Okay.
watch it. It's literally the creators of Instagram, Facebook marketing, like all the major social media, YouTube, some of the original founders who were in charge of marketing, who utilize what's called neuro-linguistic programming, which
Oh
is
my
just
God.
a fancy way of saying, conditioning of the brain. Hey, hold my warm coffee. They came out and created a documentary where they said we created a monster that is so insanely strong we can't even break our own addictions, and they see their families and the suffering, their kids suffering from it, and they like wanted to tell everybody about this because that they thought was the only way that they could bring light to it, but it's too late. The way
Wow.
that our phones are designed, everything, security is the most basic necessity of the brain. Information travels through the basal ganglia into the amygdala, which is the fear response center of the brain, 2 times faster than the outer portion, which is the neocortex, logical, like your consciousness. So when you see something or experience something, you always will experience it emotionally before consciously. That's why we need to like breathe to calm down, for example. Well, the way that phones are designed is to allow the body homeostasis and balance, but very erratically, because the body always wants to seek that balance. So what it does is it goes, hey, search algorithm, give Joe everything that's going to piss him off. Dude, I wish I would have recorded this so fucking bad. I had these three young black dudes who were working with me on some job sites about, I don't know, a year ago, maybe. Great, best workers I've ever had in my fucking life, by the way. Those dudes are awesome. They'll always have a job with me, but we come from incredibly different backgrounds and demographics. They were like 21, black, grew up in some of the outer regions of like the Chicago area. I'm 30 something, Marsoc Marine white dude at this time. And we both did a Google search at the exact same time on our mobile devices, and it pulled up completely
Wow.
divisive, completely different results. Like if we didn't know each other and we were sitting there at our homes doing Google searches, it was on Black Lives Matter and Donald Trump and stuff. We would have been reading into that and hating each other more without ever even meeting one.
Wow.
And then what's crazy is as we did like the third and fourth Google search, they synced up and they were exactly the same. Because so the Intel group that I was doing work for out of Israel, it specialized in cell phone technologies. It's called Cellbrite. And they're the world leader in data acquisition for mobile devices. I mean, dude, I was breaking in. I could find anything out about you. We were over in
Wow.
we were over in Kenya uncovering Al Shabaab locations based off of the SSID from the Wi-Fi routers of like Ahmed's fucking coffee shop,
Wow.
finding Americans that were supporting us, all from one singular cell phone rip. So
Wow.
because of the location data within your mobile device and how fast this information transmits, they were able to determine that Malik and I were next to each other, conducting the exact same Google searches. And it quickly said, hey, we should be syncing up this search information because they're obviously next to each other. And the algorithm is identifying that we have the same search pattern. And so chances are statistically that we're together. That's how like insanely dangerous this stuff is. So to kind of go back to I think what the original question was is like, what do we do about it? So the cell phone's designed to make us dramatically life-threatening, security-based addicted, but then it's smooth, it's sleek. It also
Yeah.
reduces our anxiety. You'll get 8 different anger types of posts, like scrolling through social media. Then you'll get the one cute dog post. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, this motherfucker an asshole. So it's designed to literally, it's just so, and the more you do it, the more it becomes a neurologically ingrained habit. It gets programmed into the
You need
subconscious.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. So people right now aren't even operating with any sort of conscious behavior. How many times have you found yourself just staring at your fucking screen for no reason? You're like not even doing anything. That is the danger and the effect of what's taking place right now in terms of like general situational awareness. And the best thing to do with that is to recognize that you're doing it, put it in your fucking pocket, take 10 steps, step off to the side, and then pull your phone out and serve that hit, of dopamine, that addiction.
Oh,
Because
it's so scary.
when you consciously intervene, though, you begin to unravel that. Put your phone away, dude. Fucking detox from the phone for a year or some shit, or a week, a day.
And think about it, dude. When you say that to somebody, how offended do they get?
Because their bodies like you're insane. I look at my phone 20,000 times a day. That is such a hardwired. Imagine if you did 20,000 dry fire reps on your handgun every single day. You would be the world's greatest fucking shooter ever. You wouldn't even need to
Fact.
think at all. And what's happening is we're out in public, we get anxiety because we don't know how to defend ourselves. Unconsciously, we know that we can't defend ourselves, most people, because they're weak and fat and diabetes
Yep.
and shit.
Yep.
And so they get anxiety because the sympathetic nervous system revs up. Sympathetic nervous system revs up. Our body goes, oh, I need some dopamine. I need some balance. Oh, this beautiful blue, sleek screen. Oh, fucking whatever. And then you put your phone back in your pocket because you almost got hit by a car because you're walking in the parking lot. And it's like, oh, anxiety again. And then you just stick your face in. So it's a vicious, vicious cycle. And the only way that you can undo it is by becoming consciously aware of that and just taking a moment to say no and then walking off to the side. And that little bit right there makes such a difference.
Facts.
Now, what could we do about all this crazy, gender, Hamas
Yeah.
support, corrupt political, everything? So this is my challenge to guys like you is identifying it, it's there.
Yep.
You see it right away. But where we become subject to it as well, obviously, I don't think that guys can have babies. I'm not a fucking idiot. But when I allow myself and when you allow yourself to sit there and just pay attention, where your concentration goes, your energy flows. That's a scientific principle, right? Law of motion, emotion, things you get emotional about, you move towards. We are energy, emotion, energy and motion. The Greek, Latin, the Greek
So
root.
like don't give it the time of day, you mean? Don't eat.
Yes,
Yeah.
because all it does is distract you. Because the best thing that you and I could do is become highly successful and incredibly rich and wealthy fucking dudes and women out there for the women who are participating in this type of, raw, just general movement of humanity.
Yep.
Because as you're seeing inflation, as you're seeing all these foreign aid packages get stuffed into the pockets of politicians and these elite douchebags, the wage gap is increasing. And I don't know about you, but I was always taught like being rich is like a bad thing.
Of
I
course.
don't know.
Of course.
Where does that come from? It comes from people wanting us to think that. So we think that we're being righteous and being fucking poor. That's the dumbest
That's
shit.
so true. That's so true.
Oh, I'm weak and this is a problem with people never being broke. I mean, I've been so fucking broke. I was scared. I was petrified that my family wasn't going to fucking eat. We couldn't even afford food and groceries. Our house was going to get fucking foreclosed on. So when people never experience that level of poverty, they don't understand that there is nothing righteous
Yeah.
about being, there's nothing righteous about it.
Facts.
And there's
Facts.
nothing evil about being rich. In
No.
fact, my wife and I just went to a charity event a few days ago, and we were able to give away tens of thousands of
Damn.
dollars to charity finally for the first time ever in our lives. And I can tell you what, that shit matters when you're funding anti-human trafficking campaigns, when you're funding opioid detox recovery programs.
Facts.
That shit matters. And to not have to worry about where you're going to get your groceries and your food from for your family, that level of stress destroys creative thought, which just puts you in a perpetual cycle of
Yep.
negativity. Goes back to the environmental conditioning and you staying subject to the grand narrative of being a dumb, broke, fucking, drinking veteran, popping pills. I'm going to kill
Yep.
myself.
Yep.
That's the greatest thing we could do for these douchebags is kill ourselves straight up.
Yeah, you're right. You're
I
right.
just
That's what
found
they
out
want.
another guy I worked with just killed himself, I guess, a few weeks ago. And this dude, him and I didn't get along. Like we weren't friends. I actually thought he was a douchebag. But I tell you what, he was a goddamn warrior. Like this dude had all my respect in the world. He was a Bronze Star recipient, a Silver Star recipient, and it was well deserved. And countless other things that he probably never had to even receive recognition for. And he just fucking offed himself because he had no purpose. And so the best thing that we could do to combat this is to find our purpose and throw everything we got into it into the service of humanity.
When you don't have purpose, is that brings on shame. And then when shame overloads, that's when these people are pulling the trigger, I feel like.
It
I mean,
can. It
yeah.
can. It's just like a ship without a rudder. When you don't have purpose. Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, and if you've never read that book, I highly recommend it. I read it every day of my life. I read at least an excerpt from it. Changed my life. It's the most read book by the most successful people besides the Bible. And when you don't have purpose and desire, like move towards something, Earl Nightingale said the progressive realization of a worthy ideal is success, progress towards that thing you're aiming for. When you don't have that, you're a ship without a rudder and you're just floating adrift in the ocean and you're going to end up derelict somewhere. And that's so true. And when you look at a man's life specifically, even a woman's, but I speak as a man because I'm a man, we need to have purpose. We need to have work that is fulfilling, that we feel like we're creating something. That's how society has progressed so far. And so it could lead to shame, absolutely. It could lead to a lot of different negative pathways, emotional.
Because I know when I feel like I'm not accomplishing, I feel like it's like a waste of talent and I'm ashamed. You know what I'm saying?
You're like, what the fuck? You're like,
I can
what the,
understand that. Yeah.
and I know because I've been there
Yeah.
100%. And that's what we need to be doing to
Absolutely.
fight against this. Because here's what it comes down to. When I see like these Antifa fucking idiots and these idiots, gender queer, whatever the fuck. And by the way, I don't give a shit if you're gay. I don't give a shit.
No,
But until you start pushing that stuff on little kids, that's fuck.
exactly. But what you said really correlates, man. It almost feels like they're just trying to argue. They're just trying to pick on things they know will incite the masses.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Just so we exactly what you said. So we put our energy towards it.
right.
And because the things they're choosing just don't make sense. It's like, what are you talking about? Like the things you're choosing to argue about are it's not even a thing. Like if you want to go do that, if you want to go be weird, go ahead and be weird. I don't care. You're
Stop
not going to
shoving.
force it down my kid's throat though. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And that's like the conundrum and the paradigm right there is that where does this stuff take place? Universities, or largely it's in Democrat run districts and cities because
It's a
that's the
fact.
party that's just like insanely blatantly corrupt and don't give a fuck and they'll just do it in
Yep.
front of everyone's face. And what happens is you get these defund the police movements. Nobody wants to be a cop. So after a couple of years go by, now we have this new generation of low standard idiot cops, DE and I
With no
bullshit.
training. Yeah, exactly. That are shooting everything moving. Yeah.
Now they're making way stupid choices, and these, a few of these protesters get killed, and it just further fuels the separation
The
of might.
narrative. Yep.
Because when it comes down to it, sometimes honestly, I I I jokingly but not jokingly, like I don't ever want. I was in Iraq when it broke out into a civil war between the Kurds and the Iraqis, and that shit doesn't have a good outcome no matter what.
No, no.
And I would hate to see that in America because I don't know if a part of me says I don't know if we could recover. Now the other part of me says I kind of really wish there would be because you know how fucking fast we would sweep through these
Yeah,
pussies.
I know. I know.
It
I
would
think
just be
about that sometimes, dude. I really do. And I know it's a shitty thought to think, but it's true, man.
yeah,
It,
it is shitty and true.
yeah. But that's the
But
world. That's life, you know?
we're not the ones starting this shit, and it's getting to
No.
the point now where we're getting pretty sick of it. The best peaceful resolution that I've thought of is that I really hope we get to see more combat veterans specifically and veteran altogether, whatever. But for me, at least, I resonate with the combat vet because
You've seen it.
yeah, and you don't want that shit, and you're willing to fight, literally fight against it. And this is why so many vets have to stop killing themselves, is
Yeah.
because we're
I
turning.
was gonna bring that up to you actually, dude. How, and I don't want to sound corny in saying it, but you said it for me. We need to have some form of united front. Uh, there's so many of us. The GWAT nation is large, a lot of us deployed,
Yeah,
and no one has been able to just bring us together.
no,
You know where you'll find us? Arguing in the comments section, calling this dude a pussy because he didn't go to fucking Sangin or Marja. You know, who gives a fuck?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, I know that there's a multiple individuals that think like me. That is my form of, or I don't want to say normal because what is normal? But it's where I want to live. It's where I'm comfortable living, and you know, I'm kind of digging into freedom lately because someone said something to me the other day, and it was your ability to speak freely directly correlates to your significance, and that hit, man. Especially in the world we live in today. We talked offline about Boeing.
yeah,
Um, you know, look at what's happening in that, man. People are and I just recently watched a piece on YouTube about it, and this guy is directly just bringing up issues about planes that fly Americans to and from states in our country, and he's getting threatened by the CEO because it costs too much money. It's all a bottom dog. It's just scary that it's so blatantly in the open, and we used to think that America, it was the place you wanted to be and we were the good guys, and I know that's ignorant to say good guys, but it was just the I mean, we've traveled, we've seen how it is in other places, man. it
yeah,
is it is the best place in the world, and I'm confident in saying that. But it seems like it's, I don't know, some of these things that you're talking about that have manipulated the masses and overrided some morals. uh, we're seeing what comes from that.
yeah. And that well, that's the goal. That's the end state. That's the Chinese influence. That's what they want to happen. They want to slowly erode at the fabric of American society from the inside out. They're not going to make the same mistake that the Japanese made back in the 1940s.
Exactly.
That would be the dumbest thing that they could do.
Poke the
And
dragon too soon.
it was the dumbest
Yeah,
thing. Well, to wake the dragon ever.
exactly.
They there's a saying, I think Mao said it, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but it says something along the lines of like the Japanese, poked and woke the dragon when we want to kill it with like 1,000 little cuts or something like that. And
That's real.
you know what's crazy about like the airplane stuff too is I travel a lot, and back in March, which ironically was the anniversary of the helicopter crash for the Raider 7, March 10th, I was on a
RIP.
plane headed to Vegas, and we had an engine failure during takeoff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, plane crashed, dude. Like, well, it crashed like right back down. So as we were taking off, the engine failed, boom, and it like I thought we went skidding off the runway.
Wow.
Plane crashes are just, I'm so glad we didn't because even that was such a violent experience. Um, so ever since then, that happened. You see all these other incidents in the news. I'm just talking about my own personal experiences. I went down to Texas a few days ago. We had to deplane and get on a different plane because we were having engine trouble.
Oh my God.
On the way back, we had to got delayed for other mechanical issues. My cousin was in Texas a few days ago. She had to deplane because of mechanical issues. And I'm seeing all these female pilots, which just pisses me the fuck off. Not because it's chick pilots, but because they're doing it. And this is where a lot of like the Boeing issues are supposedly coming from, is it's this bullshit diversity.
Diversity, yeah. Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. And I blame the US military and these bullshit officers and these fucking pussies for allowing chicks to be in the fucking infantry. Everybody knows that they don't
Let's
fucking,
talk about it. Let's talk
dude, they
about it.
don't belong there. They don't fucking physically
They
meet the
don't.
requirement.
They don't. Not only that, listen, when I was over there the second time, we had the female engagement, the FET teams.
Yeah.
Do you know how many of them ended up pregnant within week? I mean, month two, month three, dude. They became ineffective, bro, because of that. I mean, it's just, it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't. I'm sorry.
And don't get me wrong. So I fought alongside some chicks over in Syria. Um, we'll just leave it at that. And I do know of some tier one like chicks, like Intel, badass. They've got their place. They've got the
Of
thing that
course,
they
of
do that
course.
is awesome. And I'm not talking about like being sexually attractive. I'm talking like hardcore badass chicks that are like running marathons with like two kids in a stroller and like record time crushing me. And so cool. That's awesome. Right on. That's fucking righteous. You do you. They make great
Good for
snipers.
you.
Like chicks make amazing snipers. I saw that in action. And what are they doing? They're running around lightweight,
Yeah,
carrying
that's
things that
true.
are,
That's
they're
true.
not trying to be in the Marine Corps infantry. Like, this is the most dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Just doesn't make sense.
And they all failed like the basic infantry course. And if they're so combat effective, well, then why don't we have all chick infantry battalions?
Facts.
Because they would get slaughtered.
Yeah. They're just not
Like,
built for it. It
could
means
you imagine like going up against an all-female like Taliban brigade? You wouldn't even take it seriously. You'd be like,
no,
what the fuck? Like, this is a
no,
joke.
no.
And so that's really, man, unfortunately, where I saw all this stuff starting. I was like, where are they going to be putting chicks next? Now they're like forcing the standards to be lowered so that they
I
can be
know. I
forced
know.
into these
That's
positions.
wrong. I'm sorry, that's wrong. And this is not misogyny. Don't point at this and say it's misogyny. It's not. It's just calling something something here. I mean, if you have to lower training standards for you to call yourself infantry, do you really even believe that? I mean,
Or a
are you
pilot.
comfortable with that? Yeah, or a pilot.
Well, and like I talk with my dudes about with when it comes to like, I was told them, I was like, because all this, they're working with me all through like the 2020 Black Lives Matter bullshit, DE, and I was really coming to thing. And I straight up told them, I was like, if you guys think I'm gonna fucking pay you more because you're black, you can go fuck yourself. And they were like, honestly, Joe, because they're all younger dudes, and they're like, we think that that's the most racist shit in the world.
It, thank you.
And I'm like, yeah. I was like, exactly. And these dudes are so sharp, man. I really hope that they go places and don't get too distracted in life. But
I'm glad that at least there's a percentage that sees that for what it is. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
get promoted because you're black and not because you're smart and capable and talented. Like that is the most racist shit I've ever heard of in
that's
my.
ridiculous. That's absurd. You're kneeling to that right there. You're
So it's but again, I really do think that this is a part of like the Chinese 100-year plan.
do you
And they're
when we say they, bro, like what we're doing right now, I mean, we're keen individuals that have been downrange and we can identify things. That's what we're doing right now. Right? We're identifying irregularities that don't make sense and we can tell there's an issue with. When we say they, is that your they? Because I feel like that's why this is so effective. Because we can't point a finger and be like, that's the enemy.
I think they is subjective to the topic. So, for example, when I say they for the Marine infantry chicks, it's talking about anybody who supports that agenda, and when it clearly doesn't make sense. When I'm talking about the racial biases within the workplace, it's really the people who support that. which you're right, it is somewhat of a fairly ambiguous term because people do come out and say, I support these things, but I really think that it all boils down to external influences.
Intervention, and yeah. And
Yeah.
let's be real, man. It's looking like the Democratic Party is that person.
Them, and I would say, I would really just say any politician that's been
Yeah,
tenured
it's
for
true.
20,
It's
20
true.
plus.
It's true. Because you can't get that far without, meeting those men in black suits that tell you exactly what to do for, a check.
Well, look at Tulsi Gabbard. I really respect that woman for the fact, or even JFK or Robert Kennedy Jr. They both had to leave the Democratic Party.
Yep.
They said, "Hey, we're done because we can't participate in the agenda that you want us to do." And that's troubling. That's concerning. And I really wish that we would see more Republicans and more Democrats all together do that and come back towards the center because things are just so polarized. And all that does is
Yeah.
continue to put us further down that cycle. But I really do just want to, I really want to, so we don't get wrapped up in the exact same thing that I said causes us to be victim of this is, yeah, we're identifying it here because we're here for the specific purpose of like a podcast. But just so everybody's clear, I do not spend a lot of my time thinking and talking about these topics because what I rather would talk about with people on a day-to-day basis, and probably a big reason why I don't talk to too many people because people just don't want to have these conversations because it involves self-improvement and accountability and
No one
effort.
wants to do that.
Yeah, it's all about, hey, your life is the way that it is because of you. 100%. If a meteorite fell out of the fucking sky and killed my family, I would blame myself because we were living in that house and that quality of a lifestyle and doing that thing at that point in time because of my
Choices I
decision.
made. Exactly.
And so don't allow yourself to develop. I'm saying this to everybody out there listening who might be struggling with faith and humanity and America and all this stuff. Look, the best thing you could do is get yourself physically fit,
Yeah. Yep.
mentally equipped, and have that purpose and that drive and take those chances and those risks. Most people tiptoe safely through life, hoping that they never run into any issues until they die.
Don't poke
And
anything too hard. Don't stand on anything. Yeah, you're right.
chances. And don't get me wrong, it's scary. I get it. I've taken the most craziest chances. I put my family's fucking livelihood at risk. Just about a year, year and a half, 2 years ago, I put us in $264,000 of debt with zero assets to our name. But if I focused on that, we'd still be in that position. Next month, June 1st, we're completely debt free.
Hell yeah.
And how did we do that? Well, we did it by going against conventional wisdom. Oh, better scrimp and save not, want not, or whatever that stupid saying is. And when you do that, you're developing the energy of a scarcity minded person and you're tuning your brain into scarcity. And when you tune your brain into scarcity, it elevates the sympathetic nervous system, survival based mechanisms in the brain, which decreases creative thought. And if you decrease
Man,
creative,
you're right.
you're never going to get out of the rut that you're in. And that's why I don't drink, that's why I don't smoke. That's why I just wake up every day and I take a moment to be grateful for what I have. And then I start working towards making a positive impact in the world because your financial situation is nothing more than a representation of the impact that you provide to people around you. And so I really just want to just tell people that all day long, every single day, get yourself moving in a positive direction. And if you don't know how to do that, that's exactly what like I started the Lethality University for. That's exactly what so many of these other I used to think the life coach scene and Tony Robbins and all that shit was like dumb. It's really not. It's like honestly one of the most amazing things ever. Never before in the history of time has so much wealth and knowledge and success ever been brought to you. Invest in yourself. I'm telling you, I've spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars hiring some of the most influential people in the world just so I could work with them for like, I spent 100 grand to work with a guy for 8 hours once. Eight
Wow.
hours. And I didn't have, it's not like I was like rich.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
it was like finally the third time I was working myself out of being in debt from leaving the military, I finally had 100 grand. And then I spent it for 8 fucking hours of this guy's time. But the energy transference and the knowledge transference, it's being taught how to fish and not just being given a fish. It is the greatest thing that we could ever do. Elevate your body, elevate your mind, elevate your skill sets. And when you do that, you could form habits that will make you so successful. It's just it's undeniable. And if for the people who work with me and I give them everything, the numbers that I've had, the numbers that I do have, how broke I was, how much money I make, I will tell people everything through and through about me because I want them to believe in themselves. Because if my dumbass can pull myself together in a situation, multiple situations that would have caused people to literally break down, it's not that I'm anything special, it's that I learned how to focus and how to develop my mind through the chaos, through the fog of war, and come out on the other end by focusing on the process, which gives me the end result. And anybody could do that. You just have to have somebody there to coach you and guide you and mentor you because it's difficult. It's simple, but it's hard at the same time.
Damn. Do you get a lot of pushback on that when you force individuals to be real with themselves, to look at what you're, yeah,
Oh yeah, because it's a difficult thing to do. And I try to do it as empathetically as possible. Sometimes, I even get sick of it and people just crying all the time. And it's like, dude, shut up. Like you're just
you're
crying
not you're not doing anything with that. Yeah, I mean,
and all my life and blah 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 blah. I used to shoot up heroin, motherfucker. Like,
seriously.
I try to not go down that route like so many very influential, famous people do, like life coaches do. I just want people to understand that I don't care where you're at in life. I've
You've
been
you've been at that low and you know it's possible to turn it around. Yeah.
and I've put myself in, unfortunately, in those positions on multiple occasions. So it's not like I just like was there and then I worked myself up. No, I was like up, down, up, down. It's crazy. It's like my stock trading account. If you look at the years I was doing it, it's like it's like gives you a heart attack just looking at this. It looks like an EKG, and but not a good one. So yeah, like if I could do it, anybody could do it. You just got to follow the steps. And it's hard for people to be real with themselves. It's like one of the most difficult things in the world to admit that you've been so fucked up and you haven't been thinking the right way because your thoughts directly correlate with your emotions, which directly correlate your actions. And everything boils down to your thoughts. What thoughts do you have? Do you think of porn and fucking chicks and forgetting your problems and something from the past all day long? Because if you do, all you're gonna be is some fucking twerp who fucking tweedles his dick all day long and nuts on himself and
Gets
fucking
nothing accomplished. Yeah,
gets
exactly.
fat. And that's just a hard thing for people to realize they've been doing that for so long. But it's cool. It's fine. It's just not okay to stay there. What we got to do is we just got to start working on the process. And when people are finally willing to like work on that process, it's like they just want to fight me the whole way. And like, okay, that's fine too, to some degree. I do get like tired of so many people can't even wake up and drink a glass of water for 7 consecutive days. That's my first task for people. That's it. Wake up at 5 o'clock or 5 minutes earlier than what you currently wake up if your work schedule is like weird. Wake up 5 minutes earlier than you currently do. And when you wake up, drink a tall glass of water.
You said it before, man. I remember you said this on the last podcast, was little wins and consistencies.
It develops momentum. It's just like a rocket ship taking off from the earth, man. It requires the most thrust at the beginning when it's closest to the surface of the earth, but after it breaks through the gravitational or the majority of the gravitational pull of the planet Earth, a little bit of thrust will literally take you
Yeah.
all the
Yep.
way. So when you build that momentum through those little wins, getting up early, boom, win. Making your bed, boom, win. Drinking a glass of water, boom, win. It's not like you're sitting there being like, fuck yeah, like I just accomplished
Yeah.
everything, but your brain starts to recognize it at that unconscious level. And when your brain starts to recognize these successes, over and over and over again, that's when it programs itself into the subconscious. And when
Mm.
information gets programmed into the subconscious mind, the difference between unconscious and subconscious is the unconscious is the primitive mechanisms and neural networks at the base of the brain that are associated with survival, specifically survival. And when the subconscious is in full effect, that's because the brain, as an energy conserving genius mechanism, it burns a lot of calories and glucose whenever it's thinking consciously. It's like a hot computer system just firing
Mm.
off. Well, instead of doing the same thoughts over and over again, burning those calories and that glucose, it programs it into the subconscious, the operating system, your habitual behavior. And that's why habits are so hard to break, is because it solidifies that neural network with something called myelin. And myelin is a sheathing, kind of like on coax cable, how it protects that cable from the
Yeah.
elements of
Yep.
the world. Well, once you have that myelin sheath around that neural network, it's like a super highway of information traveling over and over again, which becomes your reflexive behavior. That's why when we go through the military and we train so much, now you start to incorporate some emotion, energy in motion. You get emotional about something that you've been accomplishing because 7 days goes by. Hey, man, I've been drinking that glass of water every single day. Now you consciously recognize that win. You get that little hit of feel good neurochemicals in your body. When you have an emotional recognition of an event, it solidifies that myelin sheath like way faster as opposed to not. When you think back to all the significant events in your life, they're emotional events. And the reason why you remember them compared to all the other benign daily experiences is because the more emotion tied to it, the more
Mm.
solidified the neural network becomes.
Gotcha.
And when you do this over and over again, and like a month goes by, and then like you monitor and track your macros, and you start to actually like see your abs.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never thought that I could do that.
That's
Whoa,
such
I
a good feeling when you start actually seeing results that you're working towards. Yeah. It
so
does motivate.
now, yeah, and what did you just say right there? It's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
And as emotional creatures, now you really start to elevate. Now the rocket ship is taking off further into outer space. So now just a little bit of that emotional feeling, that positivity starts to change your self-talk. The way that you talk to yourself is the way that you view the world, which is the way that you behave, which is the output of your energy, which allows you to operate on the vibrational frequency associated with other high frequency people. High frequencies, positive emotions, gratitude. High frequency people are wealthy, intelligent, creative people. So when you elevate yourself up to that level based off of these little wins, now those people are finding you attractive. They're like, man, Nick, you're a pretty interesting guy. You were in the Marines, you deployed, you've been doing what since you got out? You got a podcast? Man, that's really cool. I wouldn't mind checking that out sometime. Could I be a guest? And before you know it, you've got somebody who you never would have imagined working with in your entire life, and you're sitting in their living room having a conversation with them, handing them a MARSOC insignia, telling them that their work literally saved your fucking life and is the reason you have a kid, now two kids today.
Damn.
It's unbelievable. Next in the next 2 weeks, do you know who Brad Lee is, Dropping Bombs podcast?
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna be on his show in 2 weeks.
Damn.
Like, how does a guy living in a tent from nowhere, Chicago, used to shoot up heroin as a little kid, end up working with people like John Assaroff, Brad Lee,
That's
Wes Welk?
savage.
Like, it's not like that it's not that I did anything special, except apply the principles and the fundamentals associated with universal law. Universal law is scientific fact. And if you continue to apply it, even when you feel like quitting, man, because there's been times where I'm just like, am I making progress? Am I doing anything? What the fuck else can I do with my life? But you just stay focused and you just keep pushing forward, focus on that process,
I love
and you
it.
can do anything.
Well, leave us something, man. Most of my listeners are veterans. You know what pushes us, and you know what we're dealing with. Tell us something that hits, man.
You know, when it comes to suicide, dudes wanting to kill themselves. Like I said, I just found out this guy I used to work with just smoked himself. One of the first responses somebody said as I was talking to them about it, was, yeah, man, I heard. I really wish guys would start reaching out. Well, guys don't reach out when they're about to blow their fucking brains out
Yeah, exactly.
because there's nothing to reach out to. There's nothing. There's no hope anymore. And
That's
it's
real.
all reach out. And let's just be real about it. Nobody truly gives a fuck that much. Yeah,
Exactly.
sure they probably do,
No, you're
right? Like
right. You're right.
if you showed up at their doorstep and you had a gun, that's going to be a burden for that individual who you're doing that to.
Bam.
And you're already feeling like a burden on society or the people that you love. Big reason why most people kill themselves. They feel like they're
Yep.
just a useless burden.
You're right.
So instead of encouraging people to reach out,
Reach out.
call somebody, call me, how about you man or woman the fuck up and shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me an email, whatever. Instagram's probably the best way to get a hold of me, Joesph Malone Official. I was recently told that I have a lot of like perverted gay dudes hit me up on Instagram. It's weird. They send me pictures of their feet and shit, and they ask to
Oh,
like
what the
do
fuck?
weird stuff. Yeah, it's fucking disgusting. I understand what it feels like to be a chick now, I guess. But because my I guess my profile pic, this black chick hits me up. She goes, "It's because your profile makes you look gay as fuck." And I was like, I got now Meta won't let me change it. They say that my
It's
beard.
a pain in the ass to change it, dude. You can't
Oh
change it.
my
I know
god,
you're
man.
right. I can't either.
Anyway, that's how you'll know it's me. Profile. But Joesph Malone official. And I don't want to fucking talk to you about your feelings. I really don't. Because your feelings are fucking bullshit because you're about to kill yourself. Your feelings don't fucking matter. They just don't when it comes to the grand scheme of life. You need to man and woman the fuck up and always push forward.
Yep.
When somebody gets fucking killed, one of the worst experiences ever, and he wasn't killed like next to me necessarily, but Chuck Keating got killed. Actually, the anniversary was just so many people have fucking died. It's like I don't even remember the anniversaries anymore, but it was just May 3rd. And when I saw his homies who carried him out to the chopper just soaked in his blood,
Yep.
it's the worst. Seeing an
Absolutely.
American blood, a down American is just the worst thing. But immediately right after that, back to fucking business, and you'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
Emotions don't matter for the grand scheme of things. Hit me up, and I will give you some of my time, which is the most valuable thing that I have to give, my time and energy, and I will tell you what to do. And if you do it, I guarantee fucking to you, you'll never think about killing yourself again. It'll take some time. You'll have to do it. It'll require some work. But if you're not willing to put in the fucking work, dude, then I don't know what the fuck to tell you.
Exactly.
Clearly, you're not that suicidal, or you're just so suicidal that.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
anybody who really is going to kill themselves, they're so desperate for fucking hope, anyways, that they'll do anything.
Exactly.
So don't reach out and call me to talk about your feelings and everything. If you want a blueprint that will take you out of the bullshit, then you could hit me up. Then you could put in the work. Then I will continue to talk with you and I will continue to work with you because I truly believe that veterans are the linchpin to keeping this country safe, secured, and protecting
Absolutely.
protecting the fabric of its morals and its values.
Absolutely.
Don't fucking kill yourself because you're
No.
fucking turning it over to the goddamn enemy.
Yep. That's what they want. Absolutely. Well, there you have it, guys. Joe, I appreciate you coming on again, man. Great talking with you. And we'll get up soon, brother. Semper Fi.
Yeah, dude. Stay strong, brother.